Imagine a dresser with antique-style brass pulls. Now imagine that same dresser with country-style wooden knobs, or funky plastic knobs, or sleek handles in stainless steel. The decorative hardware on a piece of furniture or on cabinetry dramatically affects its look, so changing it is an easy and inexpensive makeover. How would we get a grip on things without knobs and handles? But they're more than something that can open doors for you. The many styles add to the appeal of our furniture. To make a handle, an electrical hoist drops big chunks of zinc into a melting furnace. At 427 degrees Celsius, metal quickly turns into liquid. It's so hot you'd lose a finger if you touched it. Automated arms move an iron pot full of the liquid to a railroad car which takes it to the next stage. Here they pour the liquid metal into another furnace that's just as hot. This is called a machine furnace. A hydraulically driven cylinder pushes the liquid metal through a system of nozzles and pipes that run through the furnace. It carries the liquid metal to a die. The die shapes the handles cookie cutter style. Water flushes through the die. This cools down the zinc and it hardens into a handle shape with a lot of extra molding that they're going to have to get rid of. So now that they've cooled, it's safe to touch them and remove some of that waste. A worker snaps some of it off and tosses it in a bin for recycling later. And the handle shapes go into a separate bin. But there are still some little bits of waste on the handles called overflows. So a mechanically driven spinner tosses the handles around and knocks off any overflows that have been missed. It's a lot faster than picking off those little pieces by hand. A worker dumps the handle shapes into a bin. They're starting to look like something you could really hang on to. A similar die casting system is used to make knobs. But the knobs come in two interlocking pieces. They place them on a turntable and fit them together. Then a 4-ton hydraulic press presses down on the knob, and that pressure seals them. They pour a mixture of water and oil on the knobs to cool and lubricate them, while an automated machine drives a screw into the back of the knob. This makes a thread pattern inside of it, so it can be easily screwed onto furniture later. Now they plunge the handles into a chemical bath. The chemicals help to conduct electricity. This process is called electroplating. The handles are negatively charged. The brass particles in the water are positively charged. They attract and connect, and this causes the brass plating to form. They dip the handles into the chemical wash twice and then rinse twice. Next, they dump the brass handles into a vat of acid. This oxidizes it, blackening the finish to make it look antiqued. This brass pull has aged 100 years in just a few minutes. Next, they funnel the handles into a big round polisher. It's called a bowl vibrator. The handles are mixed in with steel ball bearings. The machine vibrates and the friction from the ball bearings polishes the handles. Now those antiqued brass handles have a shinier finish. Sometimes they use ceramic pellets in the polisher instead of ball bearings. They spray soap and water into the bowl to lubricate the handles and allow them to move freely. This gentler friction results in a different finish. The polish on the handles will be brighter. Now they put a handle into a clamp. With air pressure, it puts the squeeze on the handle so that it hooks into a back plate. When the pressure is released, the fit is snug. A front and back plate gives a handle a more elaborate look. They buff up a knob with a cloth polishing wheel that's mechanically driven. This process gives knobs and handles a certain gleam. It's the finishing touch. So now you have a handle on how furniture hardware is made.
Around 1000 AD, craftsmen began making intricate window designs using lead rather than wood or plaster between pieces of colored glass. Before long, the church was commissioning stained glass windows depicting religious scenes to adorn the great cathedrals of Europe. You can make stained glass two ways. Using copper foil, a technique developed about 100 years ago by the American artist Louis Comfort Tiffany, or you can use the centuries-old European lead technique, which we're about to see. First, the artist lays a plate of glass over a pattern and traces the parts of the design that she'll cut from that plate. Then she scores her trace line using a glass cutter. A quick snap, and the glass separates neatly. She follows the same procedure with different colors and textures of glass for all the pieces of the design. By running the cutter slightly inside the trace line, she leaves room for the strip of lead that will later hold the pieces of glass together. Once she finishes cutting all the pieces, she checks them against the pattern, making sure they fit together properly. Now it's time to assemble the pieces using the pattern as a guide. This zinc molding will frame the panel, its inner groove fitting over the edge of the glass. The artist positions this molding along the perimeter of the pattern. Then she drills an L-shaped wood frame into the work table to hold everything in place during assembly. A few nails keep the molding in place. She'll join the pieces of glass using strips of lead called came. Lead because it's soft enough to bend to the shape of the pieces. After straightening out a long strip of came, she cuts the various lengths she needs to border each piece of glass. The came is shaped in such a way that the glass on each side just slides right under. The cutting pliers, called nippers, are specially designed to slice through the came without deforming it. Once the artist finishes assembling the glass pieces, she pushes everything gently against the wood frame. This squares the panel and ensures the pieces fit together snugly. Now she brushes on flux, a type of acid. This cleans the lead came so that solder will adhere well. Using a soldering iron, she applies a bead of lead and tin solder wherever two strips of lead came join. Then she uses a short bristled brush to coat the lead in black putty. This makes the seams watertight and gives the lead a darker, aged look. Finally, she sprinkles on calcium chloride powder called whiting. This sets the putty and polishes the glass and lead to a shine. After 4 painstaking hours, the panel is finished. More elaborate stained glass works feature hand-painted detailing. The artist first prepares a design on paper, then cuts the pieces of glass accordingly. He paints the design outline on the pieces in black, then fires them in a kiln to set the paint. To create shading, he applies a coat of brown paint called grisaille. Using a dry brush, he removes it from the parts he wants to highlight, then he fires the glass again. Now he paints in the final details and fires the glass for one last time. The paint contains powdered glass, so the intense heat of the kiln bonds it to the glass pieces. The result is nothing short of spectacular.